I'm not going to be out here very long, but we come out here to let you know the truth on today. Once again, I'm Brother Brandon Judah McDuffin. We come out to tell the truth on God's word today. To let you know the truth based on the Holy Bibles that the Israelite that the Bible speaks of is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So the topic on today would be on the story of Thanksgiving. We're going to let you know what Thanksgiving really about. Because most of us don't know what Thanksgiving about. We don't know what Thanksgiving is about. So we're going to tell you the real story of Thanksgiving. The real story of Thanksgiving. And once again, we come out to tell our people that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the Israelites today, okay? That the Bible speaks of. So let's get into this topic on Thanksgiving. We're going to start off with St. John 8 and 32. We're going to read. All right? This is what Christ said. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. So in order for you to be free, you have to know the truth on today. And we're not getting that in America. So we have to come out in the highways. We have to come out on the byways, okay? Because there's no truth in the land today. So we have to come out on these highways and these byways. And the Lord said unto the servant, go out into the highways and the hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. So we know we can't go into church with this truth. Because the church was built on paganism. All right? That's what Christianity is. It's paganism. Okay? There's another form of Roman paganism. So we can't go into church with this truth. We have to come out in the highways. We have to come out by the hedges and compel our people, which is the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians, to come in. All right? Because they're not teaching truth in the church. All right? Once again, this topic is the real story of Thanksgiving. We're going to let you know that this day is not supposed to be celebrated by blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. We don't supposed to celebrate Thanksgiving. All right? Because when you really look into it, the country, they claim that this basically is their land, the Europeans, you know, they claim this as their own country. This was stolen from the Native American Indians, the tribe of Gad, the Gadites. But the Europeans stole this land and claimed it as their own. This land was fathered by genocide, and basically it was mothered by slavery. So once again, the Europeans stole this land. From the Hebrew Israelites, okay, which was the Gadites from the tribe of Gad. If you can see on the bottom, the Gadites. the North American Indians, all right? This land was stolen. This is their land. This so-called place that they call America is their land, the Gadact. And it was stolen. A lot of blood was shed. A lot of innocent Indians, native Indians were killed. But once again, this land was fathered by genocide and mothered by slavery, okay? So let's not forget that America was discovered in 1493. America was discovered in 1493, okay? Rodrigo Berger, which is Pope Alexander VI of Rome, I want to say that basically Rodrigo was the first so-called white man to sit on the throne as the Pope in the year 1492, okay? This was the same year that the so-called Indians, who are the descendants of Israel, the northern kingdom, were being wiped out. And the so-called, that white image of the so-called Jesus Christ, which is Cesare Borgia, was forced upon them. So Rodrigo was the first white man to sit on the throne as a pope in the year 1492. Okay, and a year later, which is 1493, America was discovered. So when the Europeans came to the Western Hemisphere, the native Indians that was in this land, the native Indians that was in this land, they were being killed by the Spaniards, the Italians. Okay? And Rodrigo had went out and had Leonardo da Vinci to create his son Cesare Borgia in the form of the new Jesus Christ, okay? And that was forcing this upon the Indians. So let me get this picture right quick. How you doing? So they were forcing this upon the Indians. I want y'all to see this real good. They was forcing this image on the Indians when the Spaniards, the Italians, when they came over here in the year 1493, they was forcing this image upon the native Indians, okay? Once again, this is not Jesus Christ. This is Cesare Borgia. If I have to say this 2,000 times over and over again, this is Cesare Borgia, okay? Which is the Pope Alexander's son. So when Alexander became Pope in the year 1492, okay, he sought out Leonardo da Vinci to reinvent his son after his son died, to reinvent his son into the new image of Jesus Christ. And this is this man you see today. Let me get another picture of him. Which is Cesare Borgia, okay? He was the one that was reinvented into the new Jesus Christ, the Caucasian Christ. The so-called white Christ that we see today in America, okay? This was being forced upon the native Indians. When the European settlers came into the New World, they didn't accept this image. They were killed. And I'm basically going to explain how Thanksgiving came about. For the ones that don't know about Thanksgiving, it's not nothing good. It's a day of genocide, okay? So this image was being forced upon the native Indians. And whosoever did not receive this image as the new Jesus Christ, these native Indians were killed. And this also went for blacks as well. All right? So let me put this image back and we're going to give you more proof. All right, we're going to turn to Revelation 13. And we're going to begin with the 14th verse. All right? Deceived them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Okay? Saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast. And that was the Roman Empire. Okay? All right? So when you read Revelation, it talks about the beast. That is the Roman Empire. Okay? Now it just said that dwell on the earth that they should make an image of the beast, okay, which had the wound by the sword and did live. Because the Roman Empire was wounded in the year 193 AD by Septimus Severus. Septimus, that means 7, okay? And Severus, it means cutter. So when you put it together, it's the cutter of the 7. Because Septimus Severus cut down the 7 kingdoms of Esau in the year 193 AD. Okay? The Jews took over Europe. And we all know that Rome is in Europe. Okay? So Rome was wounded when it was conquered by Septimus Severus. And that's why it says that which had the wound by the sword and did live. Okay? Because the Jews, they ruled Europe for 1,000 years, but after that period, in 1453, that's when the Europeans came back into power, and they called it the Renaissance period. Okay? So the beast had a wound by the sword, but he lived because he came back into power in the year 1453, and he's been in power ever since. Okay, let's keep continuing to go down. Let's look at 15. And he had power to give life into the image of the beast, all right? That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image, they should be killed. And that's the image I just showed you of the so-called Jesus Christ. All right? This is the image. Okay? And this what Revelation 13 and 15, when it says that as many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. These was the native Indians. It was the blacks as well, but we're going to focus on the native Indians since we're talking about Thanksgiving. So whosoever did not worship this image, they were killed, okay? They were killed. All right? And this was the native Indians, so this is not Jesus Christ. So let's continue with the topic of Thanksgiving. All right? So I have an article with me, and it says the real story of Thanksgiving. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. I'm not going to read the whole entire article, okay? I'm going to skip around and let you see the truth on Thanksgiving. All right? It says the story began in 1614. All right? And this is by Susan Bates. Okay? It talks about the 77 million native Indians that was murdered. Okay? So 77 million native Indians were murdered. And the Europeans decided to call this Thanksgiving. All right? So let's continue. The story began in 1614 when the band of settlers, explorers, sailed on to England with a ship full of Putax Indians bound for slavery. Okay? They left behind smallpox, which virtually wiped out those who had escaped. By the time the Pilgrims arrived in Massachusetts Bay, they found only one living Patois Indian, a man named Squanto. All right? And this is what they teach in school, but they don't teach the real story based upon Thanksgiving in school by Squanto, okay? Squanto, who had survived slavery in England. Because how did he survive slavery? Squanto had snuck on a boat, all right? When the slave boat was on his way back to the New World, Squanto, he snuck on a slave boat, basically, and hitched his way back to the New World, all right? And Squanto was able to speak English, and also he was able to speak the Hebrew language, which people call the Native Indian language. So Squanto snuck on a ship, all right, as it was coming back to the New World. He snuck on a ship, and that's how he got back over here from England. Because he was taken in Europe, they was taken in Europe as slaves, okay? The Native Indians was, after the Europeans conquered this land. They killed 77 million Indians. They took some of the Indians back to Spain, okay, as slaves. And Squanto was one of those Indians to get out from that captivity and hitch his way back to the New World on a boat. All right? Okay, Squanto, who survived slavery in England and knew their language. See, he taught them to grow corn and fish and negotiated the peace treaty between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoag Nation. So he was trying to bring peace, man, between these Europeans and the Indians. Squanto was, all right? At the end of their first year, the Pilgrims held a great feast honoring Squanto and the Wampanoags. Okay? But as word spread in England about the paradise to be found in the New World, religious zealots called Puritans began arriving by boat. Finding no fences around the land, they considered it to be a public domain, all right? Joined by other British settlers, they seized the land, captured strong natives for slaves, and killed the rest. All right? So you can see basically what happened. It's telling you what the Puritans are, the Europeans, okay? And it's telling you basically what happened. All right? How the Pilgrims came to the New World. How you doing? How the Pilgrims came to the New World and they killed the Native Indians, okay? They seized the land, they captured strong natives for slaves, and they killed the rest. All right? How do we know that? All right, let's go into the Bible. Let's go into the Bible. Let's see. The Lord shall bring a nation against thee far from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle fly. A nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. So you can see that these Native Indians that was over in the New World, okay, when the Europeans came over to this New World, they conquered the Native Indians. Because the Native Indians could not understand the European language because they didn't speak English, okay? They didn't speak Italian, okay? The Native Indians, they spoke Hebrew. So when the Europeans came over to the New World, they conquered the Native Indians, all right? That's why it says, whose tongue thou shalt not understand, because the natives did not understand the European language. All right, let's back up. It says that the Lord shall bring a nation against thee, far from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle. Because let's not forget, Spain, the Spaniards conquered the Indians, right? Italians, they use the eagle as their symbol of power. All right? They use the eagle as their symbol of power. The Italians, they use the eagle as their symbol of power. All right? That's why I said that a nation against thee far from the end of the earth. What is the end of the earth? The eastern hemisphere. The end of the earth. They came from east to west to take down the native Indians, man. And this is the day that we celebrate and we think it's cool, but it's not. It's not nothing nice about Thanksgiving, man. Thanksgiving is about a bunch of innocent native Indians, 77 million Indians that were slaughtered and killed, man. And we sit down and we celebrate this holiday. All right? A lot of people will tell you that we come together not for this very purpose, but we come together as a family. That's a lie, man. But on the day of Thanksgiving, this is when everybody chooses to come together. You can come together besides the day of Thanksgiving. You can come together any day out the year. It ain't got to be just Thanksgiving. So why people come together just on Thanksgiving? Because they actually celebrate Thanksgiving. And when you bring the truth out against Thanksgiving, people don't want to hear it, man. But Thanksgiving is not nothing nice. All right? It's about a bunch of Indians, which 77 million Indians was murdered and killed. All right? So how many people would sit down and celebrate somebody's death, man? Would you blow a man's brains out and sit down and celebrate his death? But that's what you do on Thanksgiving, man. You celebrate the death of 77 million Indians. They killed these Indians and stole this land and called it America. Because this is not the so-called white man's land, man. This is the native Indians' land. And they killed the native Indians and they stole this land, man. And we sit down and celebrate this wickedness, man. All right? Let's continue back with the article. It says, in 1637, near the present day, Groton, Connecticut, over 700 men, women, and children of the Pequot tribe had gathered for their annual Green Corn Festival, which is our Thanksgiving celebration. So the real name of that is supposed to be the Green Corn Festival, not Thanksgiving, all right? And this was for the Indians, man. All right, let's continue to read. In the pre-dawn hours, the sleeping Indians were surrounded by the English and the Dutch mercenaries who ordered them to come outside. Those who came out, they were shot, they was clubbed to death. While they were shot, they was clubbed to death. While the terrified women and children who huddled inside the lone houses were burnt alive, man. All right? The next day, the governor of Massachusetts Bay declared a day of Thanksgiving because 700 unarmed men, women, and children had been murdered. All right? So this is what they're doing as of today. They keep this holiday going and they celebrate Thanksgiving because of the Indians that was murdered, man. This is the white man's holiday. This is not the Israelites' holiday. This is not the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians' holiday. All right? But since we was brought as slaves over into this new world, they make us be a part of it, man. Now, we don't have to be a part of it, but it's just we've been spoiled ever since we were small to believe that this is a day where family get together and celebrate, man, and show love and charity. But according to the Bible, this is a day of wickedness, man. Thanksgiving is a no-no. All right, let's keep going. It says, The Europeans, which were cheered by their victory, the brave colonists and their Indian allies attacked village after village, man. So this Deuteronomy 28 and 15, it says, but it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Most High thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. So he told Israel that. This is what the Most High told Israel if they didn't keep his commandments. That the curses was going to come upon them and take them down, man. Because the Israelites, they were given commandments to go by. And once again, the Israelites are blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. But they didn't go by these laws, statutes, and commandments. So they was taken down. So let me go back into 30. So when you begin to read Deuteronomy 28 and 15, after verse 15, that verse 15 talks about that curses will come on Israel for being disobedient. So when you begin to read from 16 all the way down to 28, these are talking about the curses that came on Israel, all right? Which is blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians. So let's go back to 30. Thou shalt betroth thy wife, and another man shall lie with her, okay? What that means? That means the Native Indians they will have wives, but they won't be able to enjoy them because another nation will rape them and take them away and lie with them, all right? So a lot of Native Indians will rape, okay? Thou shalt build a house, and thou shalt not dwell therein. What that means? That means they will build up America, right? They will get this land just the way they want it, but they won't be able to enjoy this land. These teepees and all other things that they built, they wouldn't be able to enjoy them because the Europeans came over here and took everything they had, man. Let's keep continuing to read. It says, thou shalt not dwell therein. Thou shalt plant a vineyard and shalt not gather the grapes thereof. Because they grew crops over here, man. But Europeans, they stole the crops from the Native Indians. They destroyed their crops, all right? And they cattle and they so forth. The things that they had in that land. They planted the vineyard, but they wasn't able to gather the grapes, all right? They weren't able to enjoy what they worked for after Europeans came over here and took what they desired. Let's continue to go down. It says, thine ox shall be slain before thy eyes. That means they cattle, man. That means they buffaloes. That means they horses. Or whatever livestock they had on that land. It was slain right before their very eyes when the Europeans came over here. And did what they wanted to do with these native tribes, man. Okay? And thou shalt not eat thereof. It says, thine ass shall be violently taken away from before thy face, all right? And it says, and shall not be restored. They would take your livestock, they would take your cattle, and it will not be restored, man. And the Europeans did that. It says, thy sheep shall be given unto thy enemies. Because the Europeans, they took the Native Indians' livestock as well. And thou shalt have no rest to rescue them. Okay? Let's continue to read. Deuteronomy 28:32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given into another people. So it says, what's going on, man? It says the sons and the daughters shall be given into another people. All right? The sons and the daughters shall be given into another people. And this is when the Europeans came over to the New World, which is the Western Hemisphere, and took the Native Indian sons and daughters. Took them as slaves back to Spain, man. Okay? So they took sons and daughters, which were Indians, back to Spain. And the Spaniards took these daughters And they raped these daughters, man. And these daughters, these native Indians became pregnant, and they had a mixture of that Spaniard blood and that native blood in them. And when they gave birth to their children came out as Latinos, man. All right? This is how you get Mexicans and so forth. Because the native Indians was not speaking Spanish until the Spaniards conquered them and took them down. They was not speaking that until Spain conquered them. So the Spaniards taught them Spanish. Because a Latino is nothing but a mixture of Spaniard and native Indian blood. So that proves that the native Indians were raped by the Spaniards. Because the Latinos speak Spanish to this day. Okay? Where did that Spanish come from? Spain. Let's continue to go on down. All right? So it said, the sons and daughters shall be given to another people, and thy eyes shall look and fail longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thy hand. All right? You will have no power in your hand to conquer these Europeans, even though the Indians tried, because they had greater artillery. The Europeans had weapons of, they had more massive weapons than the native tribes did. The Indians had bow and arrows and spears and so forth. But the Europeans, they had muzzle loaders and guns. They had more powerful weapons than the Indians. So it was no might in their hand, man. What's going on? It was no might in their hand, okay? Let's look at verse 33, Deuteronomy 28:33. The fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up. Why does it say that? Because when the Europeans came over in the New World and took the native land, they ate up all their belongings, man. Their crops and whatever their vegetables and so forth. All right? That's why I said a nation which thou knowest not. A nation that you don't know nothing about. Because the Indians didn't know nothing about Europeans, Italians, Spaniards, and British, and all the other European nations. They didn't know nothing about these Europeans, man. Okay? So when they came over to the Western Hemisphere to take this land, they ate up all of what they had, man. They even took some of their belongings back on slave ship back to Europe. So it says, the fruit of thy land and all thy labors shall a nation which thou knowest not eat up, and thou shalt be only oppressed and crushed always. See that? So, when it says thou shalt be only oppressed always, because to this day, this land has not been given back to the native Indians. They have not given them back their land, and they don't plan on giving them back their land. They plan on making this a one world government. The Edomites, the so-called white man, which call themselves Caucasians. They do not plan on giving this land back to the native Indians. So who are the real murderers? Who are the real thieves? The Most High said in one of the commandments, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill. But Esau did that. The Edomites did that. The so-called white man did that. And they call this Thanksgiving, man. This is what Thanksgiving is all about. This is what it's all about, man. And people don't have no idea, man. They don't have no idea what it's about. So we're gonna finish off with this last article. We're gonna round it up. It says the killings became more and more franchised with the days of Thanksgiving feast. It says, and beheld after each successful massacre, George Washington finally suggested that only one day of Thanksgiving per year be set aside instead of celebrating each and every massacre. All right. So George Washington came up with this decision that Thanksgiving should be celebrated only once out the year, okay? Then it says that Abraham Lincoln, all right, decreed Thanksgiving Day to be a legal national holiday during the Civil War. So Abraham Lincoln is the one that decreed this as a national holiday, man. On the same day, he ordered the troops to march against the starving Sioux in Minnesota. So these was a bunch of converts and there was a bunch of phonies, man, and these was Edomites, the devil, that set this national holiday in effect, okay? We're going to go over some more precepts, all right? So, let's look at Habakkuk 2:12. Woe unto him that build a town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. And we already know who did that, man. As far as the Europeans coming over here. They built this town based on blood. They built this city based on blood. They built this country based on blood. This is what happened. They built this country based on blood. So Habakkuk 2:12 say, woe unto him that build a town with blood. That means destruction. And to this man that built a town with blood. All right? And these the Edomites, the Europeans, the so-called white men, the children of Esau. All right? Okay? Let's get some more precepts. Let's look at Habakkuk 1:6. For lo, I rise up the Chaldeans that bitter the hasty nation. Now the Chaldeans talk about the Babylonians, but it ain't talking about the Babylonians in this context. In this verse of Habakkuk 1:6, it ain't talking about the Babylonians. All right, it's talking about Esau, the Edomites, the Caucasians, okay? It says, I rise up the Chaldeans that bitter a hasty nation, right? Which shall march through the breadth of the land. So who marched through the breadth of the land, man? Who marched through the breadth of the land? Who did that? Who conquered this land? All right? Who did that? Edomites, the Caucasians, the Europeans, the children of Esau. The so-called white man marched breadth up. He marched through the land, man. From South America up into North America and to Canada. All right? To possess the dwelling places that are not theirs. He possessed the dwelling places that was not his. Like I said, it's a stolen land. Let's look at some more precepts on Thanksgiving. Let's look at Amos 5:21. We're going to start at Amos 5:21. All right? I hate and I despise your feast days. All right? And I would not smell in your solemn assemblies. So the Most High say, I hate and despise your feast days. But we know that Thanksgiving is a feast day. All right? He said, I hate and I despise your feast days. Because it's a day of genocide. Let's continue on, 22. Don't ye offer me burnt offerings, and your meat offerings, I will not accept them. Neither will I regard the peace offerings of your fat beasts. All right? So the Most High say, don't ye offer me offerings or meat offerings, I want to take them. I'm not going to take them. All right? Because it's wickedness. It's offerings of wickedness. Take thou away from me the noise of thy songs, for I will not hear the melody of thy viols. Because when they have a feast day, man, they sum it up by singing songs, man. by going out rejoicing and praising. Not even knowing what they are celebrating. All right? Get some more precept, man. Let's look at Lamentations 5:1. We're going to stop on the 8th verse. Any question y'all want to answer, man? Y'all got any questions concerning the proposal? Feel free, man. We preaching the truth today. What's going on?
How you
man?
doing,
I told them, I said, I'm just gonna come behind you.
Yeah, man, I'm bringing, like I said, I'm speaking basically on the day on the real story of Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people don't know what Thanksgiving is about.
Right.
They think it's about a day of rejoicing and all that.
Right.
No, they say, even some people say Thanksgiving is how you make it. But according to history, that ain't the truth. Because one guy told me, he said, if Thanksgiving, right? He said, if Thanksgiving was if it was so bad, how come everybody celebrating? I say most people celebrate Thanksgiving, but they don't really know what it's about. You know what I'm saying? And then I told him this as well. I said, look, man, Thanksgiving, the true story about Thanksgiving is about 77 million Native Indians that was killed and that was murdered. Thanksgiving is a day of genocide when the Europeans came to this new world and killed up all the Gadites, right, from the tribe of Gad, the North American Indians. They killed 77 million North American Indians. That's what Thanksgiving is about. It's about a day of genocide, a murderous day that we shouldn't be celebrating according to the Bible. That's why, and I was bringing out Amos, he said that basically the Most High in his word said that he hates feast days. But Thanksgiving will be considered a feast day, right? Because everybody get together and feast. And then he said the noise of thy bowels will not be heard. Because we get together, we play music, we celebrate this day like it's something good. But according to the Bible, this is not something good because this was done to the Israelites. So the North American Indians are actually the Israelites, just like the Negroes in America today. We are the real Jews, man.